All right, welcome to Talkin Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to go through what happened last week with the Bitcoin miners and talk about what's coming up this week with the Bitcoin miners. So this is kind of a review and a look forward. I want to get this out Monday morning, so I'm doing this just before the market opens. Hopefully, we can take a look at the market opening right in this video, but it will be later than that by the time you guys see it. So if you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could please smash the like button, I appreciate it a lot. Lastly, if you want to join the channel, you can hit the join button on YouTube, and if you don't see a join button, there should be a link below. Members have some member-only content, as well as once a week a members-only live stream. I want to talk about what happened to the Bitcoin miners last week, so I'm going to take a look back for the starters, and then talk about what's coming up this week, because we are going to start to get earnings, and I want to go through what I'm going to be looking for in these earnings reports, because the Bitcoin miner earnings reports are very difficult. The typical indicators of earnings per share and revenue are really not that relevant with the Bitcoin miners. There's a lot of other things to look for that are much more important. So I want to talk about that before these earnings reports start to come out. Okay, so there's three charts that I've been looking at once a week with you guys. So I want to show you those three charts. These are through the end of Friday. So coming into this week, I just want to review what happened last week and where we left off. So let's start with that. So this is how each Bitcoin miner has performed since the June lows. So Bitcoin crashed in June, had a flash crash down to about 17,500. Each one of the Bitcoin miners within the next 2 weeks hit a 2-year low. This chart measures from that low to where they are right now, or in this instance, where they closed on Friday. Bitcoin itself, you'll see, is in gold. It's at 20%. It's up 20% off of its lows from this summer. There are only 3 Bitcoin miners that are outperforming that, and they remain the same 3 all 4 months: Marathon, Hut, and Riot. So I just like to point out Marathon, Hut, and Riot are the 3 companies that still have a large balance of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have healthy balance sheets, and that seems to be the driving factor, because it's not performance. These are not necessarily, from an operational standpoint, the top 3 performing stocks. However, from a stock price standpoint, they are far and away standing out as the top 3 performing stocks over the last 4 months. So I think these are the safe haven inside of this industry, if you will. Over the last 4 months, Bitcoin has been inching up. We have not retested the summer lows for Bitcoin, and I think momentum is slightly to the upward direction, but we'll see about that. Okay, so going through the rest of this list, you'll see there's 2 Bitcoin miners in blue. Those miners are DMG Blockchain and Hive, so they're positive on the year. However, they are still lagging Bitcoin quite a bit. So only the 3 in green are beating Bitcoin. The rest of the Bitcoin miners, which is the vast majority of them, you're going to see they are in red, which means over the last 4 months, they are now lower. They've taken out their summer lows, and they are at a lower low. Some of them are significantly lower. Core Scientific is 89% lower than its summer low. And remember, most of these companies' summer lows were their all-time low in the history of their company. So Core Scientific's now down 89% from its all-time low. How did they fare last week? Okay, so this is the week over week. This is 2 Fridays ago versus last Friday. And again, it's Monday morning. For me, the market's just about to open. This video may not get out for a few hours, so you guys will know better than I how Monday morning is going. But you can see, if we look at last week, I think this is an important week to look at, because Bitcoin, you'll see in gold, as always, it was up 2%. There were 2 other miners that performed relatively similarly, DigiHost and BitDigital. Those are very small miners, and there was not a lot of volume going on there. But what I want to look at is the vast majority of this group. While Bitcoin was up 2%, you can see the range here, other than one outlier, almost all these Bitcoin miners were anywhere from down 8% to down 22%. So that is performing significantly worse than Bitcoin performed. Bitcoin actually was up 2% on the week. Bitcoin has been slow and steady on the rise. The momentum is definitely in the upward direction. The fear and greed index has moved way up. We're out of extreme fear. It does seem like we're moving towards a more stable time. In fact, Bitcoin has been more stable than all of the indexes over the last 3 or 4 months. But despite that, this last week, the Bitcoin miners really got beat up badly. You'll see Argo Blockchain was down 54% in 1 week. They had some news specific stuff, and I did a deep dive on that if you want to check it out. Even some of these other companies, Marathon was down 22% on the week. Cypher was down 20%. Iris was down 20%, Greenidge down 19%, Core Scientific down 19%. Now, Core Scientific the previous week was down astronomically. That stock is trading for pennies on the dollar. Riot was down 18%. So you can see not good across the board. So I really wanted to point this out to everybody because as we get to this point where Bitcoin is getting a little healthier, but the Bitcoin miners are still getting beat up, while Bitcoin has rallied, the Bitcoin miners have done the opposite. So there's been some divergence. The Bitcoin miners have more followed along with what the NASDAQ is doing and the equity markets, which have had a much rougher time. Like I said, Bitcoin has been outperforming most assets over the last 3 or 4 months. Is this divergence creating some opportunity? I really wanted to show everybody this chart. So again, this is not financial advice. I can't tell you guys what to invest in, but I do think this is highly useful information. This week was very stark contrast. You saw Bitcoin up a little and the Bitcoin miners down a lot. So somewhere in there, for me, I did find what I think are a few opportunities. So, you guys can view for yourself. But of everything that I'm looking at today, this is the chart that I think is the most useful. This really points out the stark contrast in performance between Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Now, there's been a massive wave of bad news within the Bitcoin miners. So there's definitely panic. There's definitely panic selling. A few Bitcoin miners have essentially announced they're illiquid. Obviously the fear is that becomes contagious and it runs through the Bitcoin miners. However, if you look at these companies' balance sheets, these are all very different companies. So I do think there's hidden opportunities in here. We'll definitely be talking about that all week this week. Lastly, this is the chart from the August highs. So the Bitcoin miners are in fact a leveraged play. So the best Bitcoin miner is HUT, down 41%. Now remember, Bitcoin was only down 16%. So these things are trading on multiples of Bitcoin, and the vast majority are between 41% and 66%. So that's almost a 3 or 4x leverage to the downside versus the action on Bitcoin. And this is basically since the middle of August. So this is over the last 2.5 months. Obviously, you'll see there's a lot of companies that have run into big trouble. Core Scientific's down 95%, Argo Blockchain 87%. Gree 83%, Stronghold 79%. So those are outliers to the downside, but even the next group is still almost quadruple leverage to the downside versus the price action of Bitcoin. So I wanted to show you guys this one as well. Okay, so just quickly looking forward to this week, there are 2 Bitcoin companies that have already confirmed their date of earnings that are this week. There are some more that confirmed for next week. There's a few that have not exactly confirmed their date, so those could happen this week or next week as well. But I want to at least point out the 2 that have put a press release out definitively saying when their earnings are this week. So HUT 8 is going to be releasing earnings on November 10th. Wednesday will be the last day you can trade this stock prior to them announcing their earnings. The other company that's announcing this week is Marathon. Marathon will be announcing after the bell on Tuesday, November 8th. Those 2 things are coming right up. So you have Monday and Tuesday to trade Marathon before earnings if you're interested in doing so. You have until the end of the trading day Wednesday to trade HUT before its earnings. Bitfarm has already announced that they will release earnings next week. Riot is expected to release earnings anytime soon. Several others will release earnings in the coming weeks and certainly over the next month. So I would expect over the next month we're going to get the vast majority of earnings reports from the Bitcoin mining industry. I will be doing a video that is specific to what I am looking for, but I can tell you I am not looking for revenue. We know the number of Bitcoin that each company mined. Obviously, Bitcoin is down drastically, so revenue is not going to be a good indicator of performance. Earnings per share is not going to be a good indicator of performance. And unfortunately, in this industry, the earnings per share is almost never going to be a good indicator. The accounting for Bitcoin itself is very strange. So for those companies that hold a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, there's going to be big adjustments that are non-cash adjustments that don't necessarily reflect the operations of the company. So I'll be looking for some stuff very specific. I'll give you a quick heads up, and I will be doing a deeper dive on this later, but the first thing is I'm going to be looking at cost per coin, because again, the revenue is outside of their control, but we can see how they're doing on cost controls with their direct cost per coin. We can see how they're doing on cost controls with their overhead costs, and we definitely want to take a look at liquidity. So, cash and debt, we want to take a look at what's going on there. So that's how I'm going to be judging these financial statements. Again, I will get deeper into this later in the week. Okay, so the market just opened, so I just want to take a quick peek before the end of this video. You'll see, as always, we have an orange line where Bitcoin closed when the equity markets last closed in the US. So that was way back on Friday. Bitcoin was at around 21,100. At the open this morning, Bitcoin's at around 20,700. So we're down about $400 in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down a little bit off of where it was Friday. It was actually up all weekend. It moved down Sunday night and early this morning, and it's kind of leveled off. So we'll see where Bitcoin goes from here. So I'm going to close out on this graph that I made. Again, for me, this is the one that I'm looking at most closely. This shows just how much Bitcoin miners are underperforming Bitcoin. This was just last week alone. So we'll see how they do this week. And again, we're going to get some earnings report in there. So I just wanted to get the week started off with some information and review what happened last week. So that's all I got for you for now. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.